Hey guys, it's Joe, and I am going to insert an extra video here in this series specifically because what I want to do is talk a little bit more in depth about the setup that I do with a website before I begin to add content. I think I glossed over some of those things, and I had some Facebook messages and a couple of inbox messages in SEM-Easy where people asked for a little bit more detail. So let me tell you about where we stand on this site that I'm going to be adding content to. This is icaworld.org, and I think the story behind this was it it used to have good metrics. I think the prior owner blew it up, probably spamming, probably a GSA aholic or something like that. And anyway, my VA bought it as I'm training him to learn how to buy expired domains. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, dude, this is the index. We can't. It's junk, but we already had to pay for it and blah blah blah. So I decided that it would make a great case study for what I'm doing here to show you guys how I build one from scratch. In this case, what I've done, and I told you a little bit about this in the last video, I've created a persona. In her case, the persona is Jennifer Clark, and I have got my plugins configured as I suggested earlier. The only difference is I add main WP because I use main WP to help me manage my network and do posting from a central location, update plugins, blah blah blah. Uh, but if you look at settings, um, I showed you earlier, I explained to you earlier about how I do post name. I turn off discussion so that comments aren't allowed. Uh, Reading. In this case, I selected 20 posts. For me, that probably means about 10 posts with high quality links on a typical PBN site, which, because of circumstances I described this, is not, and then 10 other links or 10 other blog posts that don't have any links or link out to some place totally at random, but probably more often no links at all. Let's talk a little bit about Jenny so that you guys get a better indication of what I do with my persona selection. So the first thing I do is I buy Gmail accounts from Fiverr, and I'm not going to pull that spreadsheet up because I've still got some Gmail accounts that I would like to use rather than you using them. So I'll leave that put down. But in this case, one of them was Jennifer Clark, and I had her email address and her password and login information. So I logged into Gmail, changed the password, changed the recovery email address, began to make it look. I even clicked on some of the emails that she had gotten since the Fiverr person created the spreadsheet for me, just to make it look like it was a little bit lived in and that somebody was using the email address. I even do a couple of small things like email myself an answer back just to make sure that Google sees some pattern to traffic in the account that's not indicative of just somebody creating it, with a tool. And then I go in and I add a Google Plus profile. And here's Jennifer's Google Plus profile. I type in a random name in Google and go out and find a random picture. I change the cover art. I begin to create a story for her or him if that's the case. I just haven't done that yet. Story here is type in a tagline, introduction. I usually do occupation, which of course will be self-employed consultant, own firm, that kind of thing. Type in some skills and what have you. I've already got her education in there because that's one of the early prompts when you set up a Google profile. And I'll add some other things, begin to talk about. I'll set her up so that I can't remember where the location is right now because I don't do it from this panel. But anyway, WordPress and Google will communicate. and they will link up so that when I post on the WordPress blog, it automatically comes over to her Google Plus page in syndication fashion. Let's go back to the blog and I'll show you where I set some of those things up. You can see that I've got a little Facebook page where I post a lot of mini site blog posts, and I'm just checking it out mostly to make sure that it doesn't leave too much of a footprint that blows up my network, and so far so good. Um, I've got her Google Plus page loaded in here so that it automatically pushes to that. I've got her Google profile associated with this blog so that, as I was describing a moment ago, that will link the Google Plus profile so that authorship doesn't really matter anymore, but now they're linked, and if you go to her Google Plus page, it will say that she writes for this blog, which is pretty key. Okay, guys, sorry about the dog. I'm back. The other things you can do is you can link up Tumblr, something called Path, which I've never used, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and I actually have a tool that I can use to create the rest of these. But the most important thing is to show you that this is all enabled. This sharing tab underneath of settings shows up as soon as you install Jetpack, which is a free plugin that just it has an amazing number of tools. The syndication part alone is really awesome, but I'll pop in here really quick and I'll show you some of the other stuff that it supports. Check this out. I'll scroll down here so that if you want to stop the video you can see, but everything from related posts to galleries. It'll do the parallax type infinite scroll, mobile theme. It's just the contact forms I particularly love to use. I like them better than, what is it, Contact 7 or Contact Form 7 or whatever it's called. It just, to me, it's the easiest and the best to use. But there are a boatload of things in here that are really neat. The sharing function is just, I'm just over the moon about how great that works. So anyway, if you were finishing things up with this profile, you would probably go out and either use a tool or do it yourself. Create Twitter and LinkedIn, Tumblr and Path. These are nothing but white hat techniques because it's simple syndication, which nobody's going to hold against you as a WordPress blogger. The other thing you can do is come down here and you can drag. Scroll up just a little bit. From a list of available services, you can drag down these things, and they show up as buttons with, in this case, let's turn on the front page. I like these buttons to be available for posts and pages to encourage people to further syndicate my posts and pages when they see them. I always have it open up in a new window, which the default is same window, but let's face it, that takes them away from your blog, so I don't want that. You can change the icon and text combination. You can do all kinds of things. And click Save. So anyway, that's how I unite a third-party profile that comes most specifically from Google Plus to a blog to begin to give both the Google Plus syndication opportunity and some personality to the blog that I believe gives you a better opportunity of not becoming de-indexed. And I don't think the syndication hurts at all. So anyway, there's my 2 cents. I'll be back with the start of content pretty soon.